Hey, Lance Martin with the Martin Group and Coldwell Banker Town & Country. Welcome to our in-studio version of our 2026 real estate market forecast. We're back in studio. We didn't do any of that last year. So we're back with one of our alumni, Mark Dowling.
Indeed.
Welcome back, my friend. How
Good to
are
be
you?
back. Thank you. Doing well.
We missed each other last year. Schedules didn't line up, and quite honestly, I didn't do any in-studio interviews last year at all.
Okay.
So you're the first one in for 2026.
Okay.
So let's just do the real quick introductions. Inland Valleys Association of Realtors CEO. 15 years, 16 years? I know we just talked about this.
15, just a little over 15 years at this point.
15 years,
Yeah.
and we've done this for, I had 9.5.
That sounds about right.
9+ or minus years, which is crazy.
Yep.
So anyway, thank you for coming back.
Absolutely.
And kicking us off. So we talk about a lot of stuff over the last decade almost, and you and I talk regularly. You're one of a dozen or so, probably less than that, of people that text a chart or what's up with this. So I want to start off today with our industry. And we'll talk about a lot of things, but I have been saying now for a while, 10 years or more, that the industry is broken. And by the way, Mark's our industry guy. But having said that, I think you wear more than one hat because you're also a data guy. I mean, you're still doing your Inland Empire Board of Real Estate data, which how long have you guys been doing that now?
About 14 years.
14 years. Okay, and if you're not familiar with that, I watched our video 2 years ago, and I said, I'm going to link to your data, and then I realized I never did that. Okay. So if you watch my stuff, I do a lot of data. Your data is, in many ways, the same, but you present it differently. And I don't want to say you do it better than I do, but you certainly do it at least as well, if not better than I do it.
That's kind. I would have said less well, but that's okay.
Well, you do it differently because I'm just using the data from InfoSparks, straight out of Sierra MLS.
Right.
I used to use the broker metrics data, it's the same data but present a little bit differently. But you and Van have done, you do it different, and you drill down more, cities and all the rest of that sort of stuff. But anyway, you're a data guy. So back to the setup, we're constantly going back and forth, talking about industry. Here's a news article, here's something in Inman, whether it's transaction data or agent production, or we did a very brief prep about, what were we just talking about seniors maybe passing on, and maybe that might
the demographic shift.
The demographic shift.
Yes.
So, but we'll get to that in a minute. But on the industry side, our industry just feels broken, okay? And that part, I'm going to use Bruce Norris as an example. Okay. Okay. So Bruce Norris, the Norris Group. Most of you, if you're following me, you might even be following me because of Bruce Norris. So for the last 2 years, he's done his what he calls his market timing event, his version of a market forecast. Right. But he's a huge data guy. You know that. So Bruce's thing has always been charts. You just look at the charts. Right. And the charts will tell you where things are.
They'll lead you.
They will lead you. So 2 years ago, his name of his event was Uncharted Waters, the boat out, drift and sea, but the play on words was charts. Yep. And the event he just did 3 weeks ago, was called Beyond Uncharted. And it was the same thing. He's like, man, I've been looking at these charts forever. They're not working. And it's very, very difficult to forecast where things are going. So with that as a setup, and going back to our industry is broken, which has a whole lot of meanings, let's just go to the transaction side. Okay. So, which by the way, if you're a consumer, a lot of our audience are buyers, sellers, landlords, tenants, maybe real estate agents. This has nothing to do with property values, although we can argue that we have an affordability issue in California. But just being in our business, a broker, owner, realtor, and just the amount of transaction volume. So you had sent me a chart yesterday?
Maybe 2 days ago.
A couple of days ago?
Yeah.
Which talked about home sales in California?
Yep.
So let's start with that. So how come we're not selling any houses, Mark? What's going on? What can you do to fix this problem?
I wish I had an easy answer. I don't. I mean, as you well know, the typical number of transactions in California were about 400,000 homes to 450,000 sold each year.
And that was for on or off the last 20 years?
Basically, yes.
Up until, when did that break?
2022, 23.
After COVID.
Correct. We saw a huge downturn about midway through 2022. Okay. That carried into 2023. And I believe that year there were about 260,000 homes sold in California, which was a huge drop. In COVID 2020 year, it was somewhere around 430,000.
Which was crazy, because going into COVID, we're
Right.
like, the world's ending, and 2020, 2021, 2022 were some of the best transaction volume years we've had. At least
And 2.5% interest rates was a good incentive.
Had something to do with it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So we were together in Monterey at the California Association of Realtors meeting a couple weeks ago. And Jordan Levine did his forecast. I think we closed out 2025 in California, 270,000 transactions.
Yeah.
And I believe his forecast for 2026 is like
280.
a couple percentage points here.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does that mean? What does that mean to your members?
Well, unfortunately, it's becoming the new normal.
Yep.
We were hoping that it was going to be a bounce back. Initially the concern was when interest rates in 2022 went up 2.5 to 3 points in about 120 days, obviously the market froze at that point. The concern was, or the idea was, once rates start to drop back down, and 2 years ago they were about 7.5%.
We just looked at that, but keep going.
And now they're at about 6%, which is historically not a bad percentage. We would see the market begin to thrive again and see more transactions. And that really...
At 6.
At around 6. And certainly the lower the better is the idea, to get it closer to 5 and 4. But we really haven't seen that activity, and not just nationally, but even locally. It hasn't spurred a lot of activity.
Right. At least yet.
At least yet.
Okay, so it's crazy how time flies. So here we are, and I know every day it seems like a photo pops up on my memories thing, and it's like, oh, well, this was 7 years ago today or whatever. And I'm like, there's no way that was 7 years ago. Okay, so today, by the way, today is where are we today? February
23rd,
2026. Interest rates today are 6. I pulled up my Mortgage News Daily, 5.99%. So I went into ChatGPT as I was driving over here, said, give me interest rates on this day going back 5 years. So a year ago, 7%. The last time you and I were in studio, 7.5%.
Right.
2023, 6.5%. And this was the part that it's funny because we lived it, and I can go back and watch videos of me doing this. But this is the part I almost kind of forgot. So in 2022, just under 4%. So we went from with February 2022, let's call it 3.8, 3.94%, to 6.5% in 12 months.
Yeah.
2.5 points, which kind of coincides perfectly with
the slowdown.
The slowdown. Shocking. Okay. And then if you go back to 2021, right in the middle of COVID, or at least kind of that, I don't know, is characterizing COVID as a 2-year window, is that about right? Does that work? 2020, 2021, and then by...
Yeah, I think 2 years is fair.
So at any rate, so we went into COVID at 20, well, I don't know where we were in 2020, but let's just say, yeah, but we were, let's say 3%. Anyway, so from 2.6 to 4 to 6.5%, so shocking. People are like, wow, my payment just went from X to X plus. Maybe I don't want to buy. And not to mention, during that entire time, property values went from X to 20 to 30% higher, 20 to 30% higher.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that though. So, before we move off on transaction volume, so are you in line with Jordan Levine's prediction that we'll see a few more, but nothing crazy this year?
I would agree with him. I am not seeing anything anywhere that really counteracts his position, certainly in California.
And that feels right to me.
Yeah.
So if you're a real estate agent, broker, owner like me, and you're saying, hey, let's try to forecast what sort of volume we're going to do this year, repeat of last year, which makes none of us happy.
Right.
It's like, okay, it is what it is. I did see something at Inman. I was in New York a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago it was, and I think it was misquoted. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'll figure it out and then I'll put something in the comments. That Lawrence Yung with NARs was forecast. By the way, this was said by our incoming NAR president, Kevin Brown, said they were forecasting 16% increase in transaction sales nationwide. You got that look on your face like that doesn't sound right. Because it didn't sound right to me, and it certainly doesn't feel like what's going to happen in California.
I just saw something yesterday that said that pendings nationally were the lowest they've been in decades.
Right.
So if we're going to go up by 60% over last year, we got a little bit of catching up to do.
Right. Okay. Well, let's deal with that then. Okay. We're using the same data.
Yep.
So we go to CRMLS, You can easily pull 15 years worth of data. I don't know, maybe you have super access and you can go back past 15
Not
years.
sure. Have to look.
But I get 15 years. If you look at the pending transactions, the lowest in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And if you just kind of, we've been doing this for a long time. So you go back and say, well, geez, I've been doing this for 37, 8 years. You've been in the industry as long, or in the area anyway.
Yeah.
Lowest pending transactions in history.
Yeah.
Or who knows. Okay, so let's talk about price appreciation. I'm forecasting flat. You have a feeling, or even want to, is that something you're even comfortable talking about?
Sure. I mean, it has been flat for about the last 14 to 18 months.
Okay. Yep, agreed.
Maybe 1 or 2 percentage points.
One up, one down.
But basically about as flat as you're going to
Flat.
get over a year plus.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. I think, if interest rates drop and get under 6, that might fuel a little more activity. And of course, we see when interest rates go down, houses become more affordable, and there's more of a push on the demand. But right now, if you look at how many home sellers are there versus buyers, there are about 40% more sellers nationally than there are buyers.
Right, which in theory should put a little bit of pressure on prices. So maybe we could make an argument, we'll see prices soften a little bit. But it doesn't, we haven't seen that. I mean, you'll see like a month.
Not here, not in this market. But if you look at other markets nationally,
Okay.
Texas,
Yeah.
Florida.
Isn't Austin struggling a little bit? Or parts of Texas?
Parts of Texas,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah. So not an insignificant state. Giant state, same with Florida.
Yep.
They were on fire for about the better part of a decade, and certainly through COVID. And both of those states are really the residential markets are struggling, and just the volume of homes right now. I mean, even if you went into like Zillow and you looked at homes available in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is about 600,000 people in the city.
Right.
I think there's 8,000 listings.
Okay.
Okay, just to put that in perspective, Riverside County with about 2.4 million,
Yep.
there's about 1,000 active listings in Riverside County.
Right, and so the population's triple-ish?
Triple-ish.
Maybe quadruple?
Yep, and
3 to 4 times?
and significantly less.
And a third, give or take.
Yeah. Now, Las Vegas is more of a transitory market because you got a lot of second home people in there. But still, there are markets like that that have a tremendous amount of active listings.
Fact check me in real time, because we're looking at the same stuff. It's 6, 7, 8 months ago, we're starting to see an increase in listing inventory. Oh, we're getting, my words, surge. I'm sure someone said there was a surge. And then that seemed to just stop. Fourth quarter.
Third and fourth
New
listings dropped.
New listings dropped. All listings on market. Again, they're I think higher than they were a year ago, but in the scheme of things. But even with that, so we've got pendings down, inventory not as high as it was 3, 4 months ago, which in theory, what would you say, 30, 40% more sellers than there are buyers?
Nationally.
So, but this is the thing. Tell me if this works for you. And I stole this from somebody else. But the reason we won't see serious price destruction, Chris Thornburg called me. I used that word 2 years ago. It's like, what the hell? What are you doing? You're looking for like dramatic effect. So forget about price destruction. A little bit of pullback in values, because we've seen this in our office. So let's say there's 40% more sellers than there are buyers right now. But are they really sellers? Or are they just got their toe in the water? Hey, honey, if we can get $850,000, we'll sell it. If we can't get $850,000, we're not pressured to sell it. So you see them come on the market, you see them come off the market, maybe they adjust their price a little bit. That feels true to me.
Okay.
So, and with that in mind, it seems like, okay, well, if I can't get my number, I'm not going to take a lower number.
Right.
Does that sound right?
I think so. And I think the other issue is a lot of the sellers in our region that were looking for top dollar, they had opportunities to buy cheap in places like Texas, Arizona, Nevada, what have you.
Okay.
A lot of those deals are gone. I mean, you saw those prices in Texas. We went up about 40% through COVID. They went up about 60, 65%. So a lot of people that were selling their house here for a median sales price here at say $600,000 to $650,000.
Right.
If they netted all of that, they could literally buy a significantly better house for about half of that amount.
Right.
Those deals aren't necessarily as easy as they were 3 to 5 years ago. So the opportunity for them to trade up and out isn't as easy.
Right. And if there's not any significant pressure on the seller, maybe I have a 3% or 4% mortgage rate. I
Exactly.
maybe have double my equity that I had? Well, certainly. I mean, heck, if I bought in 2001, 2002, or any time before that, I got a significant amount of equity. So unless there's some sort of pressure to sell, I don't have to sell.
Right.
Right. So my forecast is basically boring 2026, which is more or less a replay of 2025.
Yeah.
Even though we complain about transaction volume, it was more or less the same. I mean, just kind of flat. We complain. Well, I don't complain. I don't complain about price. I'm like, price is flat. We need that. We can't have this madness that we've had. Okay, but let's bring it back into the industry a little bit more. So I think we're in agreement. 2026 is more or less going to be a replay of 2025, volume-wise, price-wise. So getting back to the industry, NAR put out, you actually are the first one who sent this to me. NAR put out an annual look back of 2025, took our, what's the total number of agents now, like 1.3?
1.3, 1.4 million.
1.3 million realtors, realtors, by the way, realtors, nationally, and put out a chart, 71%, which is 923,543 agents, closed 0 transactions. So we can go around the edges. Is it really 71%? Is it 65? Is it maybe closer to 50? What's the real number? I don't know. There's a lot of factors. We talked earlier. Teams. What was one of the factors that might make that number not be 71%?
Well, how sales agents that are part of teams, how are those sales being translated? Are they being, is it always going to, for example, a team leader?
Right.
And
so I'm on a team with 10 people.
Correct.
You're
that are
the
licensed.
You're the team leader.
Right.
All the transactions go under you, and me and the 9 people below you get no credit. So
potentially,
is that one of
depending. Yes, that could be an issue.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But still, it's a big number.
It is.
How long have you and I been going back and forth and saying somewhere around 30, 40? My number was always 50. 50% of the realtors walking around with an active business card and a license don't do any business.
Correct.
It's a big number.
But I don't think that's much different than where it's been historically. I mean, sure, the 70% number jumped out at me, and that was a little shocking. I never imagined it was that high.
Me neither, but.
But if regardless of whether it's 70 or, like you said, 65, who cares? The fact is, this has been an industry that's always had a significant amount of people that don't produce. Mainly because the threshold to get in to become a realtor is not significant.
Easy to get in.
Easy to get in, and the cost is not that much. I mean,
which also makes it easy to get out.
Or you just write your annual dues payment, you pay for your quarterly dues on an MLS standpoint, and lo and behold, you get to sell your neighbor's house in 2 years, and it more than quadruples the amount of money you paid versus your dues. So the thresholds are fairly low to stay in the industry.
Yeah. Somebody years ago, I don't remember who, it might have been Walt McDonald, I don't know, because when I first got into the industry in 90, whatever that was, I got my license in 88, started selling in 88 anyway, and I think Walt was the president of the Association of California in, I think, 95. But I can remember somebody around that world saying the problem with our industry, my broken industry, so it's a theme of mine, I just can't help myself, is it's too easy to get in and it's too easy to get out. And the thought was, if you really wanted to get your real estate license, 30, 60, 90 days, you could basically go through, take your exam, 150 questions, 70% to pass.
Right.
I'm licensed. I joined the Board of Realtors, Association of Realtors, $1,000 with MLS dues. I'm in. It takes more time to get a license to cut hair.
Yes.
Right? So I'm in, just like that, super easy. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 months, 12 months later, this didn't work out for me. Well, I don't have that much invested.
Right.
I got my license and spent $1,000 and I'm out. And again, I'm talking kind of to consumers because part of my audience is buyers and sellers. And as much as I don't want to beat down my peers, I mean, we have a wonderful industry and it's provided a wonderful livelihood for me and my family for years and my agents. But it is a little bit of a challenge. It's too easy to get it in. It's too easy to get it out. One of the second statistic from NAR was the 71% closing 0, and we can argue. And by the way, I want to get back to that team thing in a minute. But if you look at 7.5%, 7.5% of those 1.3 million agents across the country closed 10 or more transactions. And I would think that the average consumer, a buyer and a seller, would be shocked by that. I think they would think, wait, I have a 92.5% chance of working with a real estate professional who doesn't even close one house a year, or excuse me, one house a month, or yet alone 71% that close none. And I just think that's a bad look for it. I think it's part of an industry thing that's just challenged. You know, hey, find a professional, seek out a professional.
Right.
And if you happen to be in that category, get out there and kill it. But I don't know, I just find that, do you have any commentary on the fact that 7.5% of the agents close maybe
I mean, there's no easy fix for it, to be honest with you. And if you look at Gallup poll, and I went back and looked back into the 1970s, and they asked consumers to rate the honesty and ethics of different professions. Realtors, real estate agents were kind of in the bottom third, not the lowest, not kind of close to the middle. And the challenge, though, is when you have an industry where people aren't doing a lot of business, maybe one transaction a year or every other year, it's hard to be professional.
Yeah.
You will come across as an amateur. And if you're an amateur, you will come across as unprofessional, and consumers will get a bad taste in their mouth.
Yep.
I don't think there's an easy way to fix that. I wish there was, but that is inherent in our system right now.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, and it was that way. It's funny, I just channeled Walt McDonald, and I can remember, I think it was 95, so that's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember being at a CAR meeting somewhere, Sacramento, who knows, at the Department of Real Estate. They did the forum, just like they do today. And I'm a young kid. I'm like, hey, we got to raise the level of professionalism in the business. And I think I stood up at the mic and talking to the DRE and like, what are we going to do to raise the level of professionalism in the business? And I don't know. I mean, Ivor does a bunch of great things. I'd like to think internally at our office, and there's a lot of really good brokers out there. We're doing contract college once a week, and we answer our phones 24/7, and we're trying to support our agents, and we're not unique with that. I mean, there's a lot of brokers out there, and you guys do a great job at Ivor, but it still doesn't seem like things have changed that much. It still feels like, it's not.
Well, you get good at your job when you do your job.
Right.
Okay. You come out of law school, you may have your JD degree, you may have passed the bar. That doesn't mean you're a good attorney.
Right.
You get good at a job the more you do your job.
Right.
And if you're not doing your job and not keeping your skills up, going to classes, you will fall behind and you will come across as an amateur.
Right.
And that is part of the challenge we have in our industry.
And
it has been for many decades.
Yep. Okay, well, let's dip our toe into this really quick, and then we'll move on. You had mentioned the team thing, so maybe part of this number, this 71% number, is just a team phenomenon.
Could be.
So all the transactions are being credited to the team lead. I don't know if everybody out in my world who follows me knows this, but most of you know my mom and dad were in the business. I worked with my mom and dad for 15, 16 years, which is crazy because they retired in 2001, so 25 years ago. But my grandmother was also in the business. She was just a badass real estate broker going back into the mid-50s and sold actively into when I was into the 70s anyway, maybe even into the early 80s. But she would, I always talk to her about her, always talk about the business. But when I can remember talking to her about the evolution of an office and a brokerage going from what was normally a traditional office, a broker and however many agents, to an office and how many ever agents and these teams, and this whole team thing that which isn't new, by the way. I mean,
no.
I don't know, 15 years, 20 years now.
Easily, yeah.
Okay, but even more so now. Yes. Where the teams have really came in and become offices amongst themselves, just these force of natures. And by the way, I think I used to not like that because as a broker owner, global banker, teams can be tough.
Mm-hmm.
They can be tough. The leaders are demanding because they can be, and they tend to be offices within offices.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, who's running the show here at this office? Is that us or is it this mega team over here? But anyway, that's not going away. And in balance, I've totally shifted my thought. I've shifted my thought from not that long ago. I was like, do I really want to encourage teams and support teams to the point where it doesn't matter whether I want to encourage them, support them. They're here to stay. And quite honestly, in most cases, they're better.
Yeah.
I mean, they tend to provide a better product. So, at any rate.
And they work very collaboratively, and they allow some newer agents to come in and get mentored, people that may not have been experienced to be exposed to more business activity.
Yep.
So there is value in it, and I'm sure you've seen it over the years. People that were coming into a team new, and maybe a year later they were able to kind of spin out and go out on their own, create their own team. That's great.
Well, create their own team, create their own brand.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have that in my own office right now. I mean, we've been Coldwell Banker for 21 years. There's agents within my office currently that's like, where do you work? You look like you work at Dowling and Associates, right? Or Team Dowling. So, but you can't blame them. I did the same thing when I came on board. When I worked with my father, we were Pioneer Real Estate. I mean, I didn't care what company I worked at. We were Pioneer Real Estate. We're a little country brand with a wagon wheel logo.
Yeah.
And back this was in the late 80s, early 90s, #1 office in Moreno Valley was Tarbell Realtors, which I mean, legendary brand. I mean, they've been gone for a while now and got who bought Tarbell?
Berkshire.
Berkshire?
Yeah.
Was it Berkshire? Okay. Or was it Berkshire or Prudential? Or it doesn't matter. Whatever. So they're gone. #1 market share in Moreno Valley. I could give 2 rips. I went in there, I was Lance Martin.
Right.
Lance Martin, I didn't even, Pioneer, whatever. Well, what are you with Remax? Are you with, Tarbell? Nope. I'm Lance Martin. I work with my dad. How many agents you got? 3. Me, my dad, and Steve Browers. Hey, Steve. And it didn't matter. It's like, okay, you're good. We're going to work with you. So at any rate, it just gets back to the evolution of where we are industry-wise. Okay, we talked a little bit about interest rates. So on a data standpoint, we're going to wrap up here, 10, 15 minutes or so. So we talked about your Inland Empire Board of Real Estate, not magazine, but your online magazine, your data. I said I was going to link to that. I haven't. So is there anything, we're going to get away from the data stuff here, anything that you're producing that you're putting out on a monthly basis, right?
Yep, every month.
We haven't talked about? I know you're doing prices, you're doing volume, you're doing listings.
One thing you start to talk to, which is our price is going to start to drop, and we are finally starting to see price pressure start to push downward. So we track every listing, its list price versus its sales price. Okay, and right now sales prices are selling at about 98% of list price.
Okay.
A year ago it was about 100%.
Okay.
3 years ago it was about 102%, 103%.
Overbids.
So we are beginning to see some downward pressure on that.
Okay. Interesting. Now,
not dramatic, but slight.
Yeah, but 1.5% is 1.5%.
Yeah.
Now my retort to my agents would be take that data in. If I'm listing your house and we're starting to see, hey, we used to sell at 100% a list.
Yeah.
And even above, because we had overbids, which was crazy in 2001, 2, 3, I guess. But now we're not seeing that. So my retort would be simple. Here's your comps. Let's not get greedy. If the comps say it's worth $800,000, let's not do 825. Right? Because if you start at 825 and you're at 800, well, there you go. Now all of a sudden you're at something less than 100%.
Fewer looks. Yeah.
And fewer looks. So one other thing on the data just flew in and out of my head. Hopefully I can capture it. Otherwise I'll have to move on. It's not coming back to me. So at any rate, so we'll move on from that.
Okay.
But the real estate board stuff you and Van are doing, I think is pretty awesome. Correct. Okay. We talked earlier. Maybe we'll just take 30 seconds or 0 seconds on this. Our industry's been through all sorts of litigation. I think it feels like we're kind of done with it, more or less. I know we're not going to talk about commission lawsuits. Nothing that we can say here would be appropriate in any way, I suppose. Is it done, or is there
there's
a hammer coming down?
There's a few lawsuits that are out there that are going to be interesting that implicate NAR, the issue of the 3-way agreement.
Yep.
For those who don't know, in the realtor world,
kind of a big deal for.
It is. In the realtor world, the 3-way agreement is basically a contract that aligns the local association, the state association, and the national association together.
Right.
And you are not allowed to opt in and buy one membership without buying all 3.
Right.
It's not a cafeteria model.
You're in for all.
In or out.
Yep.
There are some lawsuits that are looking at that as an anti-competition issue.
Right.
And they're not here in California. But we'll see how those pan out over the next year or two and see if there's any implications nationally.
Yeah, it's been an interesting few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having said that, and then we will move off of this because I don't know that we can add anything that'll be of value, and we might tiptoe into an area we probably shouldn't tiptoe into. But after all of the litigation that we've had over the last few years, it feels to me like after all that drama, we more or less are conducting business almost exactly in the same way we were.
I would agree.
Pre-lawsuit.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of that other than to
we'll nobody likes change because they just don't like it. It forces them to behave differently.
Right.
The fact is, like you said, the behavior is not really that different.
It's not.
At least from a commission standpoint with the Sitzer lawsuit. So it's not a big deal. I never thought it was going to be a big deal outside of the initial emotion that people had toward it. I would go out and speak at offices and tell them this might be happening, this is in the pipeline, and they would become upset and start challenging the issue. And I would say, I think it's going to be okay. Even if it goes through, I think it's going to be okay. Right. And I think for the most part, you would agree, it's not a big deal.
I would, and to the degree that I felt, by the way, we're talking a little bit in code, so if you're not in the industry and if we've got some consumer, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, from a compensation standpoint, we got these lawsuits, how do we get paid? Is it appropriate? How do we disclose it? Which I always thought was crazy, because in California, I think we've always, everything's been out there. But I thought there might have been some pressure in our industry from a consumer towards us that it turns out I don't feel that. It's kind of, which is a good thing. I think a lot of the consumers, I did business with you before, and this is what our relationship was, and I want to do business with you again, and is our relationship going to be much different? And at the end of the day, other than some extra forms and a few things, at least with our customers and what I see within our brokerage, it materially hasn't changed.
I agree.
Okay, any predictions for 2026? Any? I mean, we kind of talked about pricing and transaction. Any?
Nothing major. You said it earlier. I mean, we're looking at somewhat of a repeat of 2025. Yep. I think the numbers are going to be fairly consistent.
Okay.
I think you're going to see. Now, it's important when you hear headlines in the news. They may be talking about prices dropping significantly or over. There's too many.
A surge in listings,
and that might be the case in some areas. Right. That's not really reflective. I mean, so you have to separate the national data from California data, and quite frankly, even from regional. It's hard to talk about the Southern California real estate market. The Inland Empire is significantly different than LA and Orange County.
Right.
The number of listings, activity, all the way across, very different market out here.
Right. Well, it's funny. You hear surge of this and depression of that, and it's like, well, geez, this was the number we had, the number of listings, whatever a period of time, and then we added 12 listings to it. Well, that's a 22% increase. That's a 22% because we had almost none to begin with.
Right.
That was a big thing that Bruce Norris was talking about. We talked about this briefly before the interview, and we said, well, we want to talk about this, so I'm going to throw a fastball right down the pike and see whether you want to take it or not. We talked a little bit about the mergers. Okay, so Compass acquired Anywhere Brands. We're with Coldwell Banker. Anywhere Brands is Coldwell Banker,
Better
Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's, ERA. I should know that I say this all the time. I'm leaving a few out. Century 21 and Cochrane. Okay, I think I got all of them. Compass comes in, I don't know. Which, by the way, interestingly enough, I think it was about a year ago, there was rumors that Compass was going to acquire Berkshire Hathaway. It hits out there, complete denials, and then all of a sudden, okay, well, here we are. So that happened very quickly. So unless you want to comment on that acquisition, which is really not where I'm going with it, consolidation in the industry, do you feel that our industry is going to get smaller, fewer companies, kind of like airlines? This was at Inman. I was at Inman a couple weeks ago, and I don't know who that made the analogy. I think it might have been Leo Parada at EXP, talked about airlines. 30 years ago we had, now we got Delta, American, United. He used that analogy specifically in the real estate business. Do you see anything like that? You see these brands?
I do. And as net profit gets tighter and tighter, companies are looking for ways in which they can, make up for some of those tight profit margins by mass and by volume. So I do think that's a trend that we're going to continue to see.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I think I do too. I just have so many challenges with, and I'm one of them. The legacy brands. Coldwell Banker, 120 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been with Coldwell Banker now, me and Drew and Drake and our offices for 21 years. Hard to believe, 21 years. But yeah, the legacy brands, it's interesting. I don't know what the next 2, 3, 4, 10, 15 years hold for that, but consolidation may be one of them. So, okay, I've got to the card that says thank you. So, did anything we missed, or have we said it all?
We covered quite a bit of material.
Howard Stern, we've done it all. We've said it all.
We covered it. Yep.
Well, anyway, thanks again for coming out. Our first in-studio speaker for 2026 So, Mark,
fantastic.
My
Thank
pleasure,
you so much,
my friend. All right,
very good.
And again, our market. I'm going to be posting Mark's interview before the actual market forecast, which is March 11th. So we're just a few weeks away. A few weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Close. So anyway, hopefully, click the link below. If you haven't got your ticket, we're at the Highland Fairview offices. That's Ido Benzivi's office on the east end of Moreno Valley. That's where we were last year. It's an awesome venue. It is beautiful. but the capacity as far as people are concerned is quite a bit smaller. So if you're interested in going live, just grab your ticket immediately. Otherwise, we'll have it on YouTube and you can watch it the day after. So anyway, Mark, thanks for kicking us off.
Very good.
All right, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one. All right, and we'll see you March 11th.